I knew from a child I was uniquely different. As a teenager, amazingly talented. As a college student, I was set apart. And now as a man, I strive daily to be a person of impact. No matter how hard I tried to fit in, I finally realized that I never will, and that's okay. I'm finally getting to tell my stories of what make me the differently created Black boy man. I am so thankful that we live in a world where there are so many different people. There are people that have been through different things. There are people that run into people that inspire them, that keep their life moving. There are people that are independent, that can do and think and come up with some ingenious things to do. If we were all the same, this world would be so boring. But we are all different. And I believe it's those circumstances and those challenges that come along our way that make us into who we are. I recently sat down in May to speak with my parents about a certain situation that happened in my life that I barely remember myself because I was laying in the hospital somewhere with no conscious mind to even think or walk or talk for myself. So I wanted to know a little bit more about that experience. And when I sat them down, and they were tired because it had been a long day, and even with the tiredness and everything that was going on, my parents sat down and told me bits and pieces of my story. This is not even the full extent of everything because everybody had a different experience with what happened to me. Little by little, more things come back to my mind as I sat down there and I listened to this story. But this is what their response was before we even began the story.
I just want to just say thank the Lord that I'm able to share this because, I really don't want to recall it. But if David wanted it, then I'm going to give it to him the way it happened.
And with that being said, here is part one of my story, which happened 3 days before I was getting ready to go to the University of Toledo about 17 years ago. So enjoy.
On the day that this occurred for David's life, his dad wasn't there. Of all the days, he had took the car to go to a meeting in Columbus, Ohio. And I was home. That day I got the call that David was calling mommy, mommy. He was at Circuit City. And I was like, mommy, mommy. They said, are you Miss Coleman? Your son fell over and he's having a seizure. And I was like, he's never been sick a day in his life. What are you talking about? And he said, well, he's calling mommy, mommy. And we're at Circuit City. And I had no way to get over there. So they said they were going to take him in an ambulance to the hospital. And the closest hospital was Good Sam. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no way to get. So I ran up to my neighbor and they said, we're going to take him to Good Sam. And she took me over to Good Sam. And I was so thankful. I think you ended up meeting me there.
Okay.
Because I was able to get you. And it was only a few minutes from Bell Meadows. We were in Bell Meadows. The doctor said he was giving him Depakote. Remember we talked to that doctor? And it was giving you oral Depakote. And he said, well, he seems to be all right. But then you had one right in front of me. It was a Grand Mall type one, right in front of me. But then when you have those, you come to yourself. And I was like, I called Pastor Paul. He said, well, where's your husband? I said, well, he's on his way. I said, please pray for David. I can't believe this is happening. Okay, so that was just the beginning. And they sent you home.
Yeah, when we got home,
yeah,
we called Pastor Mike and LaDonna Williams, and they came to the house and they were praying with us. We're praying for you because we didn't know exactly.
It was the next day.
What was actually going on, but it looked like it was something that we needed. We knew we needed to pray, and so we began praying. And for a little bit, it looked like things were getting better. And all of a sudden, it will start to kind of get out of sorts. And so we prayed. I think we spent that entire night, actually, and they wouldn't leave. They were scheduled to go and speak somewhere else. He was slated to speak that evening, and he refused to leave because he said that was more important than him going to speak somewhere else. And so they stayed with us, praying with David, and just continuing to just wait with us and just try to see how much they could help the situation. But after they left, we were up all night watching over David, and David was, kind of delirious, but he would, just say different, all kinds of different things. He was making funny sounds, talking about different types of artists, and talking about something popping and this pop and all of that.
Pow, 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 pow,
And
pow. It's like
it went on for quite some time. And then he would finally go to sleep. But then all of a sudden he woke up and he was going to the front door, talking about, I need to go to the BVD, which was I guess the letters of the dumpster. He was going to the BVD because he had to take something out to the BVD, and when he did that, I realized that there was something seriously wrong, and I cried out and I said, Lord, my son, my son, my son. And then
and he was going out in his underwear, running out.
Right, and we had to get him back. We had to get him back,
we had to block. I'm sorry.
And we had to get him back and lay him down, and we had to lock the
room
door
with furniture.
Because I didn't know if I was going to fall asleep and wake up and he was going to be gone or anything like that. So that was a night where we had to do
block your bedroom with furniture.
Some serious waiting.
See, the next day, you started saying, I'm going to tell my testimony on this red carpet here at church, this red carpet at Revival Center. I'm going to tell them what God, how he healed me. And when I see this red coral, I know that you see, Mommy, you see the red coral out there? Like coral? See, and I said, I was like, yeah. And he said, I'm going to put my hand on that. If I just put my hand on that coral, I'm going to be all right, Mommy. If I could just put my hand on that coral. See, Mommy, see? And I said, oh, God. So that's when we called LaDonna and Mike, and we said, something's wrong. So they came. We said, in the name of Jesus, we command. But then, you would go, ha, 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 ha. We looked at each other, and we said,
we need to call the ambulance.
But all of us we said 911, and we called 911. We knew it was over, that there was something. That's when Daddy realized. When the ambulance took you to Good Sam, they had to put you in restraints, And when we got there, they said, this boy is not the same boy that was here a couple of days ago. He's a different boy. And they said your white blood cells were extreme. They were 80,000, something like that. That's out of the charts.
Real high count.
Yeah, that was like sick. And then they gave us a tablet to take. They didn't know what was wrong with you. They had to take you to the ICU to quarantine him. They didn't know what they never seen that. The next day, when you were there, the main big doctor called us. He was a Christian. He said, can you come to the hospital because your son has taken out all the leads that were on him and he's tried to walk off. That expensive equipment that they were monitoring, you quietly took everything off and disconnected everything and tried to walk off out of the hospital. So the doctor said, I've seen stuff like, he didn't know what to say really, but we were glad. And you wanted us to take you home, but we couldn't take you home. He was stiff as a board. Your body had stiffened, which was not a good sign, So you were in there for 30 days, and
you spent your birthday there.
Doing 9/11.
Right.
Yeah, and so we watching all that news and everything. And there was also the World Series. After 30 days, they said there's nothing else they could do. And they said that you'd have to go to a nursing home or something like that. I'm like, what? Not my son at 19? Because they were going to release you after that 30 days. So he said, okay, well, I got to see if somebody will accept him. Well, Cleveland Clinic accepted you. You were there for like 2 weeks. You just laid there, basically. You didn't move anything.
We drove behind the ambulance, arrived there, and it took a while for you to get to your room, but for us to get you to your room. Yeah. But we finally got you to the room, and on the following day, it was late at night, so on the following day, they began the testing, and they did some of the same tests, pretty much the same tests that they had done at Good Sam. And they came up with the same result. You had been there for 2 weeks. And they had, of course, Cleveland Clinic is kind of an intern hospital where, you have, so they had these different medical doctors in training coming through, observing and all of that. They had told us that at the end of the 2 weeks that they were going to do a test. They were going to have the therapist come and do a test, and you would have to respond to the test. And the only way that you'd be able to be recommended for rehabilitation would be if you were able to respond and perform the task that they were requiring you to perform. And so when they first came in, you were laying down in the bed, and they came in and you weren't up to it, and they said, "Okay, we'll be back." And so they left, and as soon as they left the room, I started talking to you about, what was actually happening, and then you decided to get up out of the bed. So you got up out of the bed, and you were we sat in a chair, and then I kind of explained to you as if, because by then, I wasn't sure whether you were understanding, but I explained to you that we needed for you to actually, respond properly and do some of the activities that they're asking you to do.
Well, this time
Otherwise, we'd have to have you put in a nursing home, and we didn't want that. And so when I said that, I said, "Well, you want me to pray for you now?" And you kind of nodded, yes. And so I went ahead and prayed. You weren't really talking at all. So I prayed with you, and as soon as I prayed with you, you stood up. And as soon as you stood up, in walked one of the therapists. He had forgotten something, and he came back. He said, "Well, David, since you're up, why don't we do this right now?" And so he started to ask you to do certain things. He asked David. He said, "David, I want you to go walk out in the hallway with me, and so I want you to walk up and down the hallway. Just walk down there and come back." And David started doing the marching band steps, marching down the hallway. And he turned around and he marched back. And he said, "Okay, well, let's come back in the room." And he asked you to do to brush your teeth, and you were able to do so, not effectively, not like you have forgotten how to do all of that. So you brushed your teeth as best as you could, and washed your face as best as you could. And those were enough for them to recommend that you go to a rehabilitation. That was when we found out that Miami Valley had, I think, either the second or the fourth best rehabilitation unit in the entire nation. So we got back to Miami Valley. They needed to restrain you, both hand and feet. At first it was just your hands, and then it turned out that they had to restrain you both hand and feet. So you were there for several days, and we had several different incidents. At one point you kind of slipped out of your thing at night and was completely naked running down the hallway.
They called and told us.
And they called and told us that we came there. At that time, we were coming, I would go to work and come to see you.
Yeah.
And then we'll go home at midnight after, you went to bed, after you went to sleep. And then I'll be right back the next morning. And we did that, off and on. But at a certain point there, they realized that they weren't going to be able to make any progress.
And that's only one part of the story. I hope you enjoyed part one of the story. Next week, we're going to delve into what my parents did after Miami Valley gave up hope with everything that was going on with me and my life at that time, and what they learned from this situation. So till next time, you are unique, you are loved, and you are created for greatness. See you in 2 weeks. Wait, hold up 1 minute. Before you go anywhere, I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of The Differently Created Black Woman. You can catch brand new episodes of this show every single odd number Monday of the month. I really don't know why I did it that way. I guess I'm just differently created. Let's go with that. Also, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button down there right below. My Deluxe Dave Dishon channel is still around, so you can check out old episodes that I used to do like 10 years ago, but this is my brand new channel, so click on that subscribe button so that you can know the new episodes that I post to this channel. Thanks again for watching. Bye.